Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have my guest co-host, Kirk Bowyer from Mini Athletics. How are you, Kirk?
I'm good, Frank. Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to our guest we have on the show today.
Yeah, super excited about this one. And before we start, in our previous episode, I talked about, I think we opened with British and American duos. And the only one we could find really was Elton John and Kiki D. But I've done a bit of research.
No, we said Billy Joel and Elton John, Kirk.
Yeah, that was yeah. But yeah, that's true, actually. But I've done a bit of research. I've got two more, Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift.
Okay. All right. Very good. Oh, Bevens is okay. So, yeah. All right. So our guest is on board with that one. Who else you got?
Andy Murray and Serena Williams played some mixed doubles together at Wimbledon, but that didn't work out so well. So let's just stick with Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift.
Fair enough. We will do that. Before we bring on today's guest, I want to share with you the three things you're going to learn from today's episode. First, we're going to learn on how array skin therapy can help millions of Americans affected by the most common skin conditions drug-free. Secondly, we're going to learn what a franchisor can do from a marketing perspective to help its franchisees. And finally, what book changed her brand? And with that said, let's introduce our guest of the show. I have the co-founder of Array Skin Therapy, Bevens Goodman. Bevens, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being part of the show. As you know, we've got Kirk here, my guest co-host. We're going to have a lot of fun. And as you know, we've got this whole theme going on here with this British-American co-host thing.
Yeah, I can see. You guys are already up there with Taylor and Ed, I can tell.
Who's Taylor? Is it Frank?
I guess I'm the American.
Taylor Swift.
I guess.
Taylor Swift, yes.
Can I be Travis at least?
Sure.
Cool. All right. Well, Bevens, let's start by talking about Array Skin Therapy. Why you came on the show? Let's hear all about it. What is Array Skin Therapy?
Yes. So Array Skin Therapy is the first standalone narrowband UVB light therapy niche clinics. So narrowband UVB has been around for over 30 years. It's a science-backed, FDA-approved medical treatment for certain chronic skin conditions. Psoriasis, vitiligo, and eczema are the ones that we see all day, every day. Unfortunately, narrowband UVB has a huge awareness problem because access to it is so difficult for patients. Dermatologists recommend it, they prescribe it to their patients, but patients have a hard time getting treatments. So that's why we exist. We started to make it accessible, convenient, and easy for patients to access because it's the only non-medicated, insurance-approved treatment available for patients, and patients deserve access to it.
Interesting. Okay, now, so I understand. So you're the founder of the franchise, but bring us back to Kristen Miller, I guess, is the founder of the company itself, and share with the audience here how you got started, how you found the business.
Sure. So I want to clarify, I'm one of the co-founders of the franchise company.
Okay.
Kristen founded the company back in 2011. She was working as a nurse in a very, very busy medical center doing light therapy for their patients. And patients were telling her all the time, this treatment changed my life, but I have such a hard time getting my appointments. I can't get my appointments because for this to be effective, it has to be done 2 or 3 times a week. So as you can imagine, convenience is very, very important for patients to see results. So they were complaining to her, I can't get my appointments. If I'm placed on a waiting list, I'm never called, or, if I miss an appointment, I can't get in for another 3 weeks. During that process, my skin flares. And they were like, you could do this by yourself. You're a nurse practitioner. And she did. And it's been really successful. We have 5 locations in Southern California and 4 franchise locations. But to answer your question, I got involved back in 2018 when I saw an ad in Indeed for a nurse practitioner job. I interviewed with Kristen. I was like, I've never heard of Narrowband UVB. I don't really know what that is, but this sounds like a cool job. Kristen seems really cool. So I started working with her. I loved it and I love what she's doing. It's such an innovative care model for an inconvenient treatment. So I asked her, can I get involved in the marketing and branding? And she was like, absolutely, go for it. And it's kind of grown from there, where I've been helping with growth and marketing and branding. And then in 2022, a group of 4 women, we all have been working together for a long time, decided that we were going to franchise the business to make it more accessible because everybody deserves access to this model.
Sure. Wow. That's wild. And so tell us a little bit about your background. What were you doing before this?
So I'm a family nurse practitioner. My history before coming to Array was in women's health. I worked at a few different clinics doing gynecology and OB, and I was super burnout. I was like, I just want an easy job. And I'm being completely honest. I was like, I am
Yeah.
burnt out. I need a break. So I found this job and it does have like a little, if you're a full-time nurse practitioner with this company, it is like the dream NP job, if I'm being honest, because you get to spend tons of times with your patient and there is some downtime. So during that downtime, I was like, what else can I do besides
Mm-hmm.
clinical stuff? And I asked Kristen if I could get involved and she was super supportive and here we are.
That's awesome. Isn't it amazing that you were experiencing burnout? And burnout doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want to do anything, but burnout, part of the problem with burnout, and I experienced it myself, is that you sort of have this lack of fulfillment now when we're burned out.
Yeah.
And you might work the same amount or even more hours than you did, but you're inspired again. And
Exactly.
that's the cure to burnout, is doing things that we feel good about. We feel like we're making a difference. And I know a lot of people who are in healthcare that feel like they go in with the right mindset, they go in with the right good intentions that I'm going to make a difference in the world. And then they kind of get slapped down and beaten down for years, realizing
eaten alive.
You get eaten alive, realizing I'm not really making a difference. You're having, like you said, these nurse practitioners are spending more time with the patients than certainly they were with just in regular reactive medicine, as we sometimes call it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the burnout was real. You have to, in a corporate sort of medicine job, you're required to see a patient every 20 minutes or, they measure your output every day. You get a 30-minute lunch break. You have to run to use the restroom. So this is like really the dream job for an NP because you get to do what you went to school for, which is form relationships, educate patients, spend time with patients, and really treat their mental and physical health.
Hi, Bevens. It's really, really good to meet you. And I've done a bit of research on the company. It looks fantastic. And I know firsthand from my own family how debilitating skin conditions can be to people. So what an amazing job you're doing. Can I just unpack how it all works? So say if someone comes in with a certain skin condition, what's the research behind some of the treatments that you offer?
Yeah. So like I don't know if I said this or not, but it's been around for over 30 years, narrowband UVB light therapy. It is proven, it is scientific based, it is shown to make an impact on certain chronic skin conditions. We do treat over 20 different ones, but we do see the same few over and over. It's prescribed by dermatologists, FDA approved, and covered by insurance. So it is a legit medical treatment. A lot of times people get us confused and they categorize us as a med spa, and we're very different from a med spa. We are a medical treatment for skin conditions. Does that answer your question, Kirk? What other?
It does. It must be incredibly rewarding owning a business that does have a massive impact on people's lives and within the community.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's the best part of this job is seeing how far people come. We have people come in and say, I haven't worn shorts in 10 years. I'm so embarrassed of my knees. I really want to go to the beach this summer, but I can't bring myself to wear shorts. And they get there, they wear the shorts and they come in and they're so excited and happy. And it's amazing. That's really the best part of this job. And that's why I'm so passionate about seeing access to this treatment grow, because we've all seen how impactful it is for people's quality of life, confidence, and just ability to get out there and do the things that they love to do.
Sure. Because this is not a med spa and there's really medical indications for helping patients. Is there a component where somebody needs to have a certification, or does it need to be tied back to a medical director to be able to operate one of these franchises?
Yes, absolutely. Good question. Yes. Our current franchisees are, well, 3 of them are nurses. And then the 4th one that we brought on is actually an attorney. And she found us because she has vitiligo and was very passionate about this treatment as well. But she ended up bringing on her best friend who's a pediatrician, so an MD. But this model is available to non-clinical people. But like you said, you do have to have a medical director. We do have a partner who walks non-clinical owners through the whole process of how do I set up a medical company if I'm not a clinician, because they can't do the hiring, they can't do the treatments. But there are processes in place to help them form their medical corporation as well as the management company. And that's how that works.
My question actually is on that, is when a franchisee signs, what happens then? So how do you get them from signing right the way up to launch of their clinic?
Yes. So the first part of that is, well, it depends if they're clinical or non-clinical. Are you asking about a non-clinical?
Yes.
Okay. So if they're non-clinical, we'll hook them up with our partner company. The partner company walks them through exactly the regulations in their state. Like, do you need a medical director? The answer to that is probably, actually, if they're if they are a non-clinical person, you absolutely do need a medical director. But this company has medical directors on staff where they can hook you up with one like immediately, and then they can start the hiring process. So we do recommend like a job boards. There are plenty of job boards out there. We do have a partner who has an NP specific job board where they can get their NP in the door. And then we have them bring their clinical staff with them to training, where we will do, because we're the clinical expertise, so we will train the clinical person while the owner is doing administration, insurance, learning, billing, and figuring out the management aspect of the company.
That's smart. Bevens, when you came on in 2018, how far along were you involved in the business before you guys decided that franchising was going to be the way to expand?
We only had the 5 corporate locations. Well, no, I think we had 4 corporate locations at that time. So, Kristen is incredible, and she sort of bootstrapped this whole thing. She was opening one location based on need, where patients were saying, hey, I'm coming from here. Can you open here? And so she would open. And then COVID hit, and she was like, what am I going to do here? What's the exit plan? How are we going to make an impact a little bit faster than one by one by one? And so me, Kristen, and then 2 other members of our team all came together and decided that we were going to do franchising, because we think it's the fastest way to make an impact. And we're excited to work with local owners who are passionate about improving the health and wellness of their communities.
Beautiful. Was there a moment when you were running this business where you realized we're onto something big here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little ones that happen along the way. I think social media for sure is a part of that. We have patients reaching out from all over saying, do you guys have a location in Houston? Do you have a location in Boston? And that's been really cool to see. And a lot of patients, say, oh, my dermatologist used to have this machine, but they dropped it. Now I don't have anywhere to get my treatment. And stuff like that really motivates us to make an impact. And I will tell you, it's not a smooth ride, as I'm sure you guys are both aware of. There's lots of hurdles, but that's the reason we're passionate about it, because people really need it.
Yeah. And what about getting the word out? How are we getting the word out to potential patients? Am I going back into my medical sales days and calling on doctors' offices and making them aware of this treatment?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's how we built it. And that's what we have been training our owners to do. We recognize now we've had a little bit, as getting started as a franchise company, you learn a lot. And we've learned that franchise owners don't always have time to put into the marketing. And so we're kind of taking that on as a pilot program. So we've hired a director of provider outreach as a pilot program. And if that's successful, which we believe it will be, we're going to offer that to franchise owners. So she has a deep expertise and background in narrowband UVB, actually. And as we grow, we're going to have her be able to train local provider outreach people for the local communities. Because, yeah, there's a lot of hats that an owner has to wear. And we thought if we could take that off their plate or help them with that, we're going to do that.
Sure. So this founder really needs to be able to get out there in the community.
That's ideal. But we do recognize that there's amazing operators who don't necessarily have the sales or the sales required to knock on doors. So we want to make it available to people who are passionate but don't have that sales background. So that's why we're hoping to expand this pilot program eventually.
That was going to be my question, actually. What do you look for in a potential franchisee?
What we look for is someone passionate, really. Our brand is very extroverted. We know all of our patients by names when they come in. You have to be jovial. You have to make them feel at home. This is a treatment that is required 2 or 3 times a week. So you have to be able to make a welcoming environment. So kind, outgoing, energetic is a good thing. Patients who have these conditions are facing mental health not issues, but challenges because of the way their skin looks or feels. So being compassionate is a really important part. Additionally, if you're clinical, that would be awesome. If you're not clinical, we can make that work for the right owner too.
Describe for me, Bevens, what a typical footprint looks like and how many rooms are there? How big are these units? I'm trying to get a kind of sense of what I would be going into.
So it's small. We say like our perfect square footage to get started is about 1,000 square feet. So it's very, very lean. We have a waiting room, a reception office. We have 3 treatment rooms. So the clinics, they all have the same types of equipment. We have a full body booth, which is head to toe, 360 degrees of the narrowband UVB. Then we have a laser and a hand and a foot unit. So you have to have all of those pieces of equipment. But other than that, it's very minimal. We have like a coffee machine, a tiny waiting room, but there's not a lot of waiting. I mean, patients are in and out very quickly because this is all we do. It's a very efficient flow. So it's very simple.
How long is a treatment usually?
Depends on the treatment. So if it's a booth patient, which most of our patients are, they're usually in and out in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very fast. But for a patient who has scalp psoriasis, it is required to use, we use our laser. So we treat the part line, repart the hair, treat the scalp, and that can take a bit longer depending on how much hair they have, but it could be 30 to 45 minutes for a scalp treatment.
Interesting. All right. What is the investment range to open one of these?
It's $190 to $380, depending on the type of laser the owner wants. So there's 2 manufacturers that make the laser. It's a very, very, very specialized type of laser. And there's 2 manufacturers that make it. One is own and one is lease. So that difference there is depending on whether you choose to buy it or lease it.
Are there certain areas in the States that you're targeting?
We do you mean, and because some people ask that question based on like, do you see more of these skin conditions in certain states and regions? Is that where you're coming from, or?
It is actually, because
Okay.
Climate, this is an open question, does climate have an effect on how the skin reacts in certain individuals? So therefore, does that mean that your business does better in certain regions than others?
That's a great question. So I would say that the answer is twofold. the answer to the first part of the question is yes, climate does make a difference. So in drier, wetter conditions, skin conditions tend to flare more. That being said, we are in Southern California and we have 5 thriving locations here.
Yeah.
So these conditions are everywhere. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great question. Clinically speaking, these conditions do tend to worsen in colder weather.
Yeah, because I mean, going back to my own family history of it, we obviously come from a very cold, very rainy, very depressing weather climate in the UK,
Yes.
and there's quite a lot of these kind of things. So that was the reason behind my question. So it's really interesting what you're doing.
It is. Thank you. I agree with you. I think we're very excited about it because I would say the most motivating factor for me is that, I went to nurse practitioner school and I had never ever heard about narrowband UVB light therapy before. And the fact that I have patients come in and say, I wish I would have known about this 10 years ago, it kind of drives me up the wall because I'm like, why didn't they know about this 10 years ago? And I really think it's because access to it is very awful. The patient experience is awful. Like you have to, get on a waiting list. You wait 3 months. You finally are allowed to start treatment. Then you have to drive to a major medical center that's 30 minutes from your house. You park, you have to take the elevator to the 3rd floor, and then you have to wait in a super busy waiting room with patients there for Botox, skin cancer checks, et cetera, et cetera. So I really think that's why nobody's heard of it, because nobody's been able to get it in a convenient, accessible way.
Well, you've got this expansion strategy right now that you've been out west, right? You've been in California, Utah, and Arizona. Is that going to be the goal right now here in the short term to stay out west, or are you looking to expand nationwide?
Yeah, we're certainly looking to expand nationwide. We have some really exciting candidates in our pipeline right now. Ideally, we would love to grow California, then, go from there. But we recognize now that that's not how it works.
Right.
You go to the places where you have a great candidate, essentially. So yeah, we have some good candidates on the East Coast, Texas, Florida. So that's kind of where we're concentrating on right now is the major markets, certainly.
So you mentioned in before that one of your franchisees was a previous customer. Is that right? Because they had a
Close.
and
So
that's testament to
our brand. Yeah. Well, okay. So three of our owners were previous employees of our corporate locations.
okay,
So
right.
they were passionate about the treatment. They saw the difference it makes in people's lives. So that's what inspired them. The person I think you're referring to is a person who does have one of the skin conditions. She was not a patient, but she's had this treatment in Salt Lake or like in her area.
So it's a bit of the. So is that the type of? So how are you going to recruit franchisees? Because it seems to be that once people hear about it and have a passion for it, they will want to buy it because it's great, right?
Yeah. While we are doing our best to get the word out about this, we have seen a lot of people who have like like an interest in health and wellness be drawn to this brand. So we're working with brokers and yeah, basically brokers. And they have been introducing us to people who have an interest in health and wellness. Certainly is great to have that passion for health and wellness. I wish I could somehow find people who have these skin conditions who who have an interest in being entrepreneurs. That would be amazing, but there's no sort of Facebook group for them. But if you're listening, give us a call. That's yeah. So we're doing our best. To be honest with you, we're just starting marketing. We're just getting going. We sort of had our V1 with our first crop. Now we're going to V2, and we've learned a lot from the first crop, and we're excited to incorporate that into our next group of owners.
Well, Bevens, I am targeting burned out nurse practitioners and burned out pharmaceutical and medical sales reps right there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Those
There's
are
a lot of
your,
those people.
those are your franchisees right off the bat.
Yeah, I agree. That's so true. And that's funny because we actually started this company. Well, Kristen and I are both NPs. And we agree with you. And we thought there's so many burned out NPs, and this is the best job for an NP, to be honest. And we thought that's the goal, but we're seeing that a few, they're a little bit hesitant when it comes to taking a risks. And so we
Sure.
recognize that maybe it's not going to be only NPs. Maybe it's going to be more than NPs, people who have an interest in general health and wellness, because there's a larger group of them.
Yeah, of course. I'd like to hear for a moment, sort of from your entrepreneurial side of things. I want to hear about maybe one of the challenges you faced early on and how you overcame it. Nothing is ever smooth. And this whole story so far was really almost like too good to be true. And I would love to hear about maybe some of the challenges that you faced and how did you fix it?
I would say recognizing that every owner is going to be a little bit different. Just because Kristen did something when she
Sure.
got started doesn't mean that that's going to be able for everyone to accomplish. So what I'm thinking about specifically is dermatology outreach.
Mm-hmm.
So when Kristen got started, she was knocking on doors. She bringing treats and goodies to all the dermatologists all over the towns, because 80% of our patients come directly from dermatology referrals. So forming those relationships is crucial. And I think we went into this thinking the owner is going to be able to do that and get their dermatology referrals up and running themselves. And we've realized that that's not necessarily the case. So that's why we're taking on this approach of bringing that in-house to the franchisor. So we're starting with this pilot to enable to help our owners get more referrals and more new patients in the door, because it's been a challenge, setting up your company, seeing your patients, because most of our owners so far are clinicians. So they're not only are they seeing their patients, they're forming their team to do the billing. They don't necessarily have time to go out and knock on the dermatology doors. So that was definitely something that we've had to regroup on. And now our thought process is we're going to bring that in-house as an added benefit to our owners. So we're going to do the training of the salespeople. We're going to tell them exactly how to approach dermatologists, and then we're going to deploy them to the areas where the clinics are to help them get those dermatology referrals, because that is the biggest piece of the puzzle.
Sure. Welcome to the club of franchising. All of us that start out, everybody who I've talked to, Kirk, I'm sure you experienced the same thing. The thing that probably surprised us the most is we think that we have to focus on training our franchisees on the actual operation of the business, like the nuts and bolts. But we don't realize that most of the people that buy our business are first-time entrepreneurs. And we overlooked, like, oh my gosh, they have no idea how to even run a business. And you almost have to kind of go back 15 steps and say, let me teach you how to run a business. That happened to me, and it happens again and again with emerging founders. And it's definitely going to be part of your brand, since you're going to get clinicians that are going to be drawn to this.
Yeah, that's nice to hear, because it makes you feel like, okay, wow, all right, this is a problem other people have run into, because we thought, yeah, this is what you do, go do it. And it's just not that easy. Yeah, it's not that easy.
They've never done it before.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing, they're doing amazing at operating, owning the clinics. It's the marketing and sales that is the part that they just don't have time for. So we're like, what can we do to help them incorporate that piece into their life? So
right. You want people to focus on the things that they're going to be really good at, and anything you can take off of the franchisee's plate is just going to make them more efficient, and hopefully then open more locations, because you've allowed them to be able to scale better and quicker.
Yeah, exactly.
Kirk, that's the same case even in kids athletics and any youth enrichment kind of business.
Yeah, it is, because owning a franchise initially is such a multifaceted role. You come into it and you've got to have these marketing expertise. You've got to know how to recruit staff. Then you've got to know how to deliver the program. And it's all of those things that you're trying to educate the franchisee on early on, which is really difficult. And then That was one of the mistakes that I made, Frank, which you've just highlighted there is, well, initially, like this person has never operated a business before. So, and I was too quick to, our staff were too quick to move them on to the next thing. Let's just settle and educate how to operate this business initially. So yeah, we definitely experienced that. My question to you, Bevens, is how do you ensure that you are supporting the franchisee and innovating the what you deliver and what the franchisees deliver? Because presumably this is I guess it's a medical, it's an ever-changing landscape maybe of what's going on in terms of the research, and how do you keep on top of that?
So I think in terms of the ever-changing research is narrowband UVB isn't really changing much. There's certainly lots of new medications on the market coming available and being approved by the FDA. Most of those have lots of side effects that patients are weary of. Our competition is medications. There's two types. There's topical creams that patients are, they've had it with topical creams. They're like, I can't bathe in this every day. I'm done with the creams. And then the other option for them really is an injectable. It's called a biologic, and it has immunocompromising side effects. So in terms of competition, patients are looking for, our sweet spot are people who don't want to use the medications. They want a drug-free solution. Narrowband UVB has been that for 30 years, and it's not changing, so to speak. What is changing is there is an increase in at-home equipment. So you can buy narrowband UVB equipment online. You could get it from your insurance company. They could send it to your house directly. So a lot of smart people are asking me, is that a concern of yours? And my answer really is no, because for a few reasons. One is what they can get at home is about this big or this big. And if you have this condition, like most of our people do, all over your body, you can't put it on your hand and then put it on your arm and then put it on your shoulder. It's going to take you 2 hours. So patients come to us for the efficiency. They come to us because they like having a clinical staff in charge of their treatment. They don't want to be in charge of it themselves. So that is really the only innovation, I would say, in terms of this treatment that's available. And it sort of seems like a Peloton, like people will buy it and then it'll sit in a corner and collect dust and they don't use it. And then the bulbs go out. And so it's really just not an ideal solution. So even if a patient does have one, they still come to us sometimes. I will tell my patients, if you can't get here 2 to 3 times a week, if that's not in the cards for you, it's better for you to take an injectable if this is really bothering you, or if you have a piece, or get a piece of home equipment and try that, because this is not going to be affected if you cannot commit to coming twice a week routinely.
It's really great because I didn't really know anything about this before this podcast, and obviously I did my very limited research. But after talking to you, I love the fact how it's completely drug free for starters, and then the second thing is, because you're educating me and you've pretty much converted me. I want to look like that. So, do you find that for recruiting customers, for franchisees recruiting customers, do you find that actually part of the marketing is just educating them?
100%. That's what this is. That's my job, is educating people. Nobody's heard of this. I didn't hear about this before I worked here. So yes, it's not really like a sales situation. It's really like an education. And even to my patients who I see, like, I'm not trying to sell them on this treatment. If this, like I said, if this doesn't fit into your lifestyle, into your day, this is not a good option for you. You're better off using an injectable or an at-home piece of equipment. And the same situation is true for franchise candidates. I made a video, and it's been super helpful because basically what I told you guys here today is what I've said in the video, and I just send it. I send it to everybody before I get on a call with them, because I'm like, you need to know this bit of crucial information about what narrowband UVB is, how we're different and sort of our unique value proposition. Because yeah, it's repeating the same information and educating people. But like I said, how could they have known? Nobody's told them about it before, and that's where we come in.
All right, Bevan, so where do you see this brand growing over the next 5 to 10 years? What's the vision that you guys have?
It depends on the day. No, I'm kidding. The goal is nationwide, convenient, easy access to narrowband UVB because it is a drug-free solution that people need to know about. They deserve access to. Certainly, we're targeting major markets first, all sort of metropolitan areas, but our eyes are more than the US. These conditions are in every country. They exist all over the globe. They are in every ethnicity, race. And so we think, like I said, everybody deserves access. So for now, we're major markets in the US. That's our goal. But come in 5 years, it might be different.
Can you add the UK to your expansion program, please?
Absolutely. You guys could really use it.
Yeah, we could.
I'm curious, Kirk, what skin conditions does your family have?
Mainly eczema.
My family as well.
Yeah.
Taylor told me that.
Yeah. Yes. My daughter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, it's so common. They say 1 in 4 Americans has a chronic skin conditions. So that's a lot of people.
My daughter and my wife both have eczema.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so common. Can I ask you guys a question?
Shoot, absolutely.
Okay, so as franchisors, we were talking a bit about things you learned and things that you can take off your owners' plates. So have you guys incorporated marketing into the franchisor level? And if so, how did you do that? And was it effective?
Okay, well, Bevens, what I did start, this is almost like do as I say, not as I did. When I started out, I did probably something very similar to what you guys did, and that was we put it in the hands of the franchisees to say, hey, here's what you need to do, and
here's
do
the
X, Y, and Z. Here's the playbook. The problem with the playbook is that it needs to not only be down to the level of detail of here's what you need to do, but here's how often you need to do it, and here's when you need to do it. And in my business, there was seasonality, but there was also different phases of the business. In other words, you were working more in marketing at some point, and then you were in operations mode. But I would say that when our lives changed dramatically in our business is when we started to be more than just prescriptive. It was when we started like handling overall like the social media side of the business. The problem with social media and leaving up to a franchisee is number one, comfort level. And number two, it's how often do they have enough bandwidth for themselves to do it? So so we took the social media side from the very beginning and said, okay, we need to at least have a base foundation of everything we're going to do from the franchisor side of things. And then if franchisees want to have supplemental part of social media, have their own activities, fine. But if you're relying only on franchisees, for example, doing social media, you're getting like a wild range of effort and down to their comfort level. Oh, and not to mention, the other issue is that in your case, you may get clients that may have questions and they may be asking one franchisee and getting one answer, and another franchisee may answer it completely different. And so we took the position way back in the day of that, you know what, we're going to at least have a base foundation the franchisor is going to handle. And then we're going to roll out a program to the franchisees. That's a long way of saying, yes, I think it's really important. But, you talk to different franchisors, they have different opinions. I think it's also, it depends on what type of marketing that a franchisor can do. Certainly a franchisee in my business wasn't going to put, say, road signs. The franchisor wasn't going to put road signs in the ground for the franchisees. But we were certainly going to take a bigger lead in social media and having a call center as opposed to the franchisees. Franchisees were answering their phones. And what we found early on is our franchisees either A, weren't answering the phones, or B, they weren't salespeople. Like you were saying that you're trying to find a salesperson. It's really hard to make somebody a salesperson.
Yeah, it's impossible.
It's
I would
impossible.
say. Yeah. Either you have years of experience getting shut down and keep going, or you don't. And that's
Right.
something that we've definitely learned too.
So let's face the fact, you're not going to make somebody a salesperson that's not a salesperson. So what are the things that we can do to help relieve them? And for us, we brought in a call center in-house so that every inquiry got answered, and it got answered the way in which we knew it needed to be
You
answered.
wanted it to be. Yeah.
And here's the best part though, for the franchisees, they were now free from those calls, and they were now going to work on things that were going to help make them more money.
Yeah. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So you want to save your franchisees money, but you want to help them to be able to get better,
Grow.
and grow faster.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be
scale.
frustrated.
Right. I like that. Kirk, what about you?
So, one of the we'll come to this question in a moment about books, but one of the best books that I've read is Daniel Priestley's Key Person of Influence. And the more and more I talk to you, the more and more you're becoming a key person of influence within your field. For me, you're becoming someone that I'm trusting, and what you're believing in and your passion, and you've got a nurse background, and you're coming into this business, and it's everything you're passionate for. For me, that's marketing, because you are now someone that I trust, and I'm going to look at this in more detail afterwards. And I think, and I'll come back to your question shortly, but after this call, I'm going to look at the things that you put out there, and I'm going to look at the different information that you've got on, because I've got an invested interest. My family has the skin condition. I've got an invested interest in doing that. So first and foremost, I think that comes from the franchisor being those key people of influence. So for us in the world of children's sport, there's so many different things that we cover in terms of our brand. And what we are passionate about, what we represent, and we are the key people of influence we're trying to be within that field. And then passing that on to the franchisee. So for us, it's physical literacy. So educating them in physical literacy is what we do, and then we ask them to really go out and shout about it and become those key people of influence within their communities, because then those people are going to trust those people within their community to take their kids to the classes. It's a big step for a parent to I'm going to take my kids to this class because it looks really, really great. That's, trusting someone with your kid. That's a big responsibility we have.
Yeah.
So our marketing has to be, yes, centrally based, but also within the franchisee, presenting themselves as people that have, as I said, a key person of influence, that they know what they're doing and all those things. And I think that's probably similar in this case. Going to one of your clinics, I'd want to know, I'd probably go on Instagram, I'd probably look at the clinic, and I'd probably look at all the things they're putting out before I trust them with my body.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I am laughing at what you said, Frank, too, because the social media piece is something I think that people underestimate how much work, time, energy, creativity goes behind doing it right.
Right.
And it's taken me, I don't know, 5 years to get to a point where I'm like, okay, my content is not awful. So for someone coming in with no experience, no history, to expect them to start making good content that converts is like kind of silly.
Of course, not to mention that everybody's going to be excited when they first leave training to do this.
Yeah.
And they're going to post, they're going to post like crazy. And then what's going to happen 2 months in? Crickets. Right. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of social media pages with all of your franchisees that you'll know when they left training, because they have all this content and then all of a sudden they fall off the face of the earth. Or the other thing is this, I noticed this with franchisees that struggled, is that nobody wants to feel rejected. And in my world, I remember having franchise owners who were struggling. They kind of gave it away I found out by the things they were working on. I'll give you an example. If I had a franchisee who wasn't spending their time marketing or spending their time trying to have partnerships where they had to open a facility. What they were doing is they were spending the time building, say, a nice PowerPoint on sponsorship. Right, right. Or they were working on things that were safe behind the keyboard.
It's easier,
Because they weren't getting rejected. So as the leaders of our company, and when we have business coaches, we have to make sure that our business coaches or our operations people are really aware of the kind of support they're providing. And you want to pick up instinctually on how is my franchisee doing? In addition to, of course, asking, how are you doing? Nobody ever comes out and says, I have a fear of rejection.
Yeah.
But they say it through their actions. And so as the leader, you need to kind of understand what your franchisees, make sure they're working on the things that they're comfortable with. And if they're not comfortable, we have to obviously train them and get them on board. Yeah, step in or help them. You might even find, Bevens, that the things that your company needs to support a year from now are things differently than what you're doing, because you may see common threads of franchisees of what they're doing or not. But for me, if I was involved in your company, social media to me is key, because your business is all about education and awareness. I can't leave it to a franchisee to do that. You are in the awareness business of a therapy that most people don't know about. Now we're playing the game of telephone. You're going to train a franchisee to learn a therapy who's now going to communicate that solely. I think that would be a tough mistake.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
and we've learned that the hard way.
Do you have a podcast, Bevens?
A what?
Do you have a podcast?
Do I have a podcast? No, I don't.
But that might be a great
I've
way.
Heard,
because having a podcast that somebody with a certain condition can listen to, because you guys are the real, you really know your stuff on this.
We're the experts in this.
About it. I'm going to start to listen, and I think that would help franchisees to refer their potential customers to. That would be the starting point for me.
It's a good idea. Except if we did that, that would be me, and I don't know if I have Frank and Kirk skills. Maybe one day.
Oh no! Trust me. No, you have our skills. The bar's really low here, Bevens. You got this. Well, Bevens, we laughed about the franchisee being a potential nurse practitioner, medical sales rep, pharmaceutical rep, but really the people who are going to be your franchisees, besides we lovingly say about those careers of burned out folks, are people whose lives you've already changed, and that's going to come through the awareness. It's going to be your patients and saying, "Oh my gosh, you changed my life. How do I do this?" Or I have a sister or a cousin or somebody somewhere else.
Word of mouth.
It's going to be word of mouth. That's who's going to trust and is going to want to do this.
Yeah, I agree. And we've had some people, tell their dads in, Cleveland about us, and we've had conversations. So definitely word of mouth is huge.
Yeah.
So I asked this on a previous podcast, and I got a really good response.
No pressure, evidently, Bevens. No pressure at all.
What's the best book you've ever read that really inspires you? So, Frank, you've got to think of a different one now. So it's a question to both of you. So, Bevens, I'll let you have a bit of time on that, because Frank knew it was coming. So, Frank, to you first.
Okay. Well, here's a book based on everything we were talking about, here's a book I love that I'd recommend to you guys. And it's called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. And Keith Cunningham is definitely a mentor of mine on how to operate a business. And he has been wildly successful. He's also one of the speakers at Tony Robbins Business Mastery for many, many years. If anybody knows the Tony Robbins program, you've heard the name Keith Cunningham. And so Keith has been a huge influence of mine. And Keith talks about paying the dumb tax. And the dumb tax is something that we all pay by not knowing something and making mistakes. And so we want to try to minimize paying the dumb tax as much as possible. It's not that we're stupid, but there's so many things in business that we can be doing. I think that, if I could put it best, Keith has a great quote and says, every bad decision he's ever made started out as a good idea. We never intentionally come up with a bad idea and it ends up being a bad decision. But every bad decision he's ever made started out as a good idea.
So I think I've played plenty of dumb tacks in the business. That's really good.
Oh,
And I
we've
think
all
I've
played
played,
dumb tacks.
as my wife will vouch, I've played lots of dumb tacks in my life. But
That's
anyway,
another
that's a great
episode,
one.
Kirk.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that is another episode. One that I'll listen to for sure.
So Bevens, same question.
Let's see. The best book the one that I keep I come back to over and over is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Have you guys ever
yes.
read that?
Yes,
Yeah,
I've met him. He is phenomenal.
You've met him? Oh, wow.
Yes, he
Yeah,
actually
he's
spoke at
supposed to
Tony's program. He is fantastic.
Oh, cool. Yes. His book really, I would say, ignited the way I think about marketing and patience and really awareness building. Before I read that, I was really selling the features, like saying, this is a 308 nanometer wavelength, and this is how it treats your skin. It decreases inflammation through these types of cells. And then I was like, that's not what consumers care about. They have no idea what that means. And so sort of positioning us as the sidekick to the patients and being a part of the patient's journey has really, I would say, transformed our brand and helped us connect with patients. Because once we started saying this is a drug-free solution, it's clicked and people get it. And so I would say that book was really immensely helpful for me.
So that goes along. That's amazing, because that goes alongside my. I want to hear your podcast, because all these stories, brand, and because that's what I want to hear about. Really, is the stories behind the treatments and the patients and all these kind of different things that I really need to educate me. I'm up for it.
That's really cool. I mean, that's inspiring to hear, because I'm like, nobody cares. But if you're saying you care, then I'll think about it.
Season 1,
Okay,
episode 1 coming soon.
So don't hold your breath.
So, all right,
Thank you.
whatever. All right, fine. Bevens, I got a last question for you. This is an easy one. If someone was interested in opening up an Array Skin Therapy, where would they go?
So they would go to arrayfranchise.com. That's where you would go to learn all the info. And then you can book a discovery call, which would be with me. And you would hear, and then I would send you my video, so that before I talk to you, you've got all the background info. But yeah, that's the first step, arrayfranchise.com.
All right, sounds great. Well, guys, thanks so much for being on the show. Bevens, thank you so much. Looking
Thanks
forward
so much,
to seeing
guys.
this brand's going to grow. I know it, and I know my wife and daughter will likely be patients when you guys come to Tampa.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Kirk, thanks again, man. Appreciate you being on the show and being my co-host here.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, Bevens. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.